Welcome back to Rowing Friends, everyone. We haven't talked in a while. This recording's from before the holidays. I hope you enjoy it. We don't talk about shopping for very long before we get into the rowing. Please enjoy. The dogs
Oh, okay.
and my mom is staying here with us right now. So she and my mom has dementia, so she really
Oh,
like
geez,
just
Adrian.
it's more than just it's just like something for her to open. So like I
Hmm.
said, just grab anything. It doesn't have to be anything like particularly special. It's more
Hmm.
about like having something to kind of be a part of
Right.
the gift opening process with. And so yeah, three texts later, I don't know, let's see. Pajamas, sweatpants. I'm like, it's not that serious. It could be a bottle of like Bath and Body Works lotion. It really could
Oh,
just be
yes.
really
Yeah.
simple like that. Maybe that's what I should write them.
Well, thanks for saying that because I have to get something else for my mom. I got her a holder she picked out for Bath and Body Works, and I meant to get another soap to go with that. So,
Yeah, I was there today and they had like these pre-made sets. And I remember like you remember back in the day, like Bath and Body Works must have like come out like it was just like maybe like late high school, early college that Bath and Body Works was like so maybe like the early 2000s when it was a thing.
hmm.
I remember I was like a strong country apple gal.
Oh,
Um
yeah.
But
Hmm.
like, I remember you could go in there and get like a reasonable gift, like,
Hmm.
like a lotion, the body wash,
Hmm.
a loofah,
Hmm.
maybe, like maybe some, maybe like at that point, I don't think they had the body spray.
Oh,
And
maybe.
I think the hand sanitizer came a little
Yeah,
bit
that
later.
came later. Hmm.
But I remember you could get like one of these pretty little pre-made gift sets and like you could get fancy and like buy one that was $30 and it would have like all this stuff
Hmm.
in it. But now like I went over there and they had the regular full-size bottles and they
Hmm.
were then just like and they weren't even like super pretty or anything. It was like literally the people behind the register were stuffing them into bags, taking Sharpies and like writing the amount on it, but it was like $37.
Oof.
$58. I was just and that was like one that like sort of looked kind of put together. But I remember they used to come like
Uh-huh.
with these neat little packages, the little like little zippered bags or
Hmm.
it used to be super nice. Like I mean,
Yeah.
I went in there and got like the mini ones, like just the
Mhm.
small ones for the boys and that was like, I don't know, $30 to get
Mm,
four small like almost sample size or I guess travel
yeah.
size um
Hmm.
stuff. So yeah, I don't always think of Bath and Body Works as a men's gift, but they do
Hmm.
have that whole section of like
Yeah.
soaps and lotions and that kind of stuff for guys. But yeah, definitely
Hmm.
not as cool as it used to be. I remember they used to do like big wicker baskets and like they used to do really
Oh,
cool
yeah.
gift baskets and I didn't see well, maybe it's because it's 2 days before Christmas. Maybe that's why they don't have
No,
any.
I was looking for them too, but I think they're like a make your own these days. Like they have like the little bags that are set
Mhm.
up with the sets, like next to the group of the similar scents. And I
Yeah,
think that's the idea is that,
you piece it
there's
together
no
yourself.
discount in getting the set. It's just you make your own and it costs
It costs what it
$60 or
costs.
something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, like what else has been going on? I mean, what else is going on rowing wise with
Oh,
you?
nothing. Nothing's going on rowing wise. Hannah started her winter training the beginning of December.
Nice.
Keegan starts right after the new year.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't have any idea because normally the adults we row after the kids practice, but this year they split it up so that they used to do Shen and Burnt Hills just like the other seasons during the year other than spring. They
Hmm.
just kind of worked as a team in the winter time.
Yep.
But this year they split them up because of numbers, but also just like kind of prepping for spring,
Yeah.
keep people separated. So they're staggered times. So they go until 7 Monday through
Oh
Thursday
wow.
with two different time frames in there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Normally we would do 6 to 8 for the adults, so that won't work.
Mhm.
So I don't know. And they don't like to do it right at the same, like it would probably start at 7:15 at the earliest, just because they don't like having, because we share a locker room and bathrooms and stuff,
Oh,
like
yeah.
they
Yeah.
just don't want to deal with like too much. Not that there's any issues, but like
Yeah.
having plus the driving and the parking and yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What about you?
Right now I'm still doing my Wednesday class. I was kind
Hmm.
of with all with some family things going on in November. So with all of that going on, I took a break from hosting my Wednesday class. I got back to it this week. We're going to take another week off next for this Wednesday because it's
Hmm.
Christmas. But then for New Year's Day, the couple ladies who are like my tried and true who come all the time, they're like, let's just work out on New Year's Day. And I was like, sounds good to me. I don't plan on being out late on New Year's Eve. So I'll wake we move the class back an hour. So it's not 8
Oh,
a.m. So it's 9 a.m. So it kind of
oh,
gives us a
nice.
little bit more space.
Hmm.
I've been working with some athletes doing winter training, kind of an adjunct to their current winter training. So I have a couple athletes who are going to practice Monday through Friday with their
Hmm.
team. 2 days of those week of the week are they're going to like a CrossFit gym and doing like lifting, and then 3 of those days are erging. So what I've been doing is kind of supplementing them like on
Hmm.
Sunday mornings. So we do a little bit of like we do like a quick review. Like we spend 15 minutes kind of talking about like what happened at practice this week. What were the wins? How can we continue to make progress? What things should we be working on? They're doing a lot of steady state work at
Hmm.
practice. So for me, I'm just giving them homework so that those steady states are productive. Because so they're doing like 3 by 20 minutes, or they're doing 4 by 20 minutes with, with breaks in between. So I'm trying to give them things to focus on during all of that time. 'Cause that's a lot of time to be rowing, and your coach is not necessarily standing there with you.
Yeah.
So for them, they had a 2K like the first or second week of their like of this like it's like a mini winter training, like a pre-winter training. So the girls just kind of took that, and I did give them some pointers. We were trying to work on consistency. I find like that's like one of the biggest things that the kids just don't understand. I always like to tell them that before I can make you faster, I need to know that you can be consistent. So
Hmm.
that means like getting on the machine, picking a number, and then actually doing that number the whole time.
Hmm.
So we did like we did some like peak power. We did like 1,000 meters at a 24. That's like a 2K predictor.
Hmm.
Peak power, if you graph it out, there's like the Jensen testing, which is peak power 1 minute, 2K and 6K and hour long test. If you graph them all out, you get an idea of where your like aerobic capacities are. And then
Hmm.
from there, based on those aerobic capacities, you can kind of say like, oh, this 2K number makes sense for you. This split is
Oh,
what
okay.
you need to hold. So I did that with the girls, and we kind of honed in on that first test, like this is the number you need to hold. So they did the first test, and then they had about a month, and they just did the last test last Friday, and well, all of them did better, which is great.
Yay.
And yeah,
That's
so a
great.
little clap on that. And
Hmm.
the whole idea is just like the kids just don't learn enough in order to really be successful, and they can kind of get into these really weird or not weird habits, but like get into like this pattern of habits when they're taking their 2K that don't necessarily let them work towards success. So
Hmm.
like so I feel like the testing and kind of getting the idea of like what physiologically can you actually do, not necessarily what can you mentally do, because sometimes that's different.
Hmm.
Sometimes people
Oh, yeah.
have a lot of physiology that they could work with, but they just can't mentally take themselves there.
Hmm.
So that athlete, it's a little bit different what I work on that with them than somebody who strictly is like just doesn't know how to put the test together.
Hmm.
And what I like to do is I use Row Hero, or you can do it on C2 Law Book also, and you get the stroke by stroke. So
Hmm.
like it just gives you so much information. Like usually like I think one of the girls her test was about 240 some odd strokes long. So I'm like, that's a finite number. Like that's like the first thing that I always teach them. I'm like, the test is only so long. I know some
Hmm.
people, I always call it a 2K test. I'm old school, like it's a 2K test. Like like I
Hmm.
love, so people are like, oh, test is like a tough word for these kids. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and that's what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's literally like a VO2 max test. It's like
Hmm.
it's a very hard test. So I try
Hmm.
to get them understanding that like this is testing your like peak physiology. Taking a 2K is like about as hard as you can work for that length of time, like it is really taxing on your whole system. That's why it's so hard to do. So
Hmm.
like I help them understand that. And then consistency. Like we go stroke by stroke and I take a highlighter, I print it out because I'm old school, because I'm an old lady, and I like printouts and I like paper and highlighters. And we go through and we highlight like every stroke that's on goal. And,
Oh, okay.
and usually and usually for the first test,
Uh-huh.
it's much better to highlight the strokes that are on goal versus off goal because they'll have a lot less on goal versus off goal strokes. And then it just
Yeah.
becomes obvious to them. Usually within like the first like 20 to 30 strokes, someone who I haven't talked to yet doesn't understand. Like you take 5 strokes and then you're on goal. Don't do
Mm.
anything other than that. I mean, I have kids who will go and they'll spend 30 strokes, like 5 or 6 beats under goal. I'm like, dude, you can't do that. You're burning
Hmm.
all your energy. I'm like, five
Yeah.
strokes. Within 5 strokes, you got to be on your goal and you just got to cruise there. And you got to feel like that first 500 is going to be kind of sneakily easy, but like you're working still. And then,
Hmm.
um, so we worked a little bit on that. So we highlighted all the on strokes so they could see like on paper, like literally you can lay out, it comes out to about 5 or 6 sheets of paper and you can just get a visual of like how much of this test are you actually doing what you say you're going to do.
Hmm.
And from there, like the one girl who I had one girl who was sick and didn't take the test just this past week, and then I had one girl who took the test, did really well, but then was sick for Sunday and we didn't get a chance to talk about it. But since this is her second one, I can start highlighting those strokes that were off goal because she has more on goal strokes than off goal strokes. So then we start to do it the other way around. And we say, okay, when are those happening? And so then we start to figure out how do you manage this? Like what do you have to think about? We talked a lot about drift too, because
Hmm.
like so say like we had the one girl who wanted to try to be holding like a two flat. But then she would get to her third 500 and she'd have a lot of drift. Like she would go to 210 or 215 or 220. I'm like, you can't drift that high. Like,
Hmm.
like if you have to drift, okay. Like, you know that
Hmm.
the third 500 is going to be hard. There's going to be some drift that's in there. So you have to plan for that. So like if you're trying to pull a two flat and you're drifting, like you can't let yourself drift above 210. You're going to kill too much time. You're not going
Hmm.
to like, and like you have to think about like, then again, like looking at that third 500, how many strokes is that third 500? How much of your test is it? And could you count those out? As soon as you get to that 1,000 meter mark, you count out those strokes and you try to keep as many of them on goal because when you get to that last 500, it's on at that point. Everybody has a great, when they're young like that, they really are able to like kind of rally and sprint.
Hmm.
I really haven't found a lot of like high schoolers who can't pull together a really strong sprint, but like
Hmm.
holding themselves together in that third 500. Sometimes it's holding themselves together in that second 500
Hmm.
because they'll see what they've done in the first 500 that went really, really well. And they're like, oh, when's the shoe going to drop? And you start to see the drift in the second 500. So like having all this data really kind of lets them like wrap their mind around it. And then something else we were working on was that they were understroking the test. Like the first one, they were more at 28:30 rather than 30:32. So when we met on Sundays, we were practicing like what is like a two flat at 30 feel like versus 26:28 because there's more push at 26:28 for a two flat, but there's more strokes at a 30:32. So you don't have to push as hard, but you got to turn over faster. And so like kind of like figuring out how that feels because I feel like for someone who's understroking their tests, the biggest part for them is like what does it feel like? It feels different at 30, 32. Like, and most of the time people say it's uncomfortable. It feels uncomfortable. I can't sustain it. And I'm like, it's not that it's uncomfortable. It's a different type of push. You're trying to push a 26, 28 two flat at a 30, 32, and you end up pushing 157, but you can't hold a 157. So then we're drifting up to 205. So I'm like, we need to not push as hard, but turn over faster. So like just like it's all these combinations of things kind of putting it all together so that they can put together a strong test because
Hmm.
I mean most of the time the kids have the physiology. They can do it. Like they can
Hmm.
usually they know what their goal is and like that number if they put all the pieces together the right way, they could easily do it without too much struggle. But
Hmm.
it's just knowing what pieces of the puzzle aren't in the right place for you. So
Hmm.
So that's a long-winded answer of what I've been doing, but it's been really fun helping them kind
Hmm.
of understand and getting the opportunity to kind of get them closer to their goals. So we're at the point where we have consistency now. So now we can work on other things. So.
So is this all based on that? Is it a 100 meter or 1 minute test, or is it based on a series of first tests?
So they took with me, they took the like the 10-second peak power test. It's actually
Okay.
20 seconds. You set the machine. There's
Hmm.
a protocol on US Rowing's website, what they use for their different I can't think of what they're called when they have the
Like best practices or something?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just like their
Yeah.
standard practice for
Okay.
they do the 1 minute test and
Hmm.
the peak power test. There's information on there also about what warm up you're supposed to do. So there's like a whole warm up in there. So I run through all of that with my athletes. I like it because the 1 minute test is really quick and the peak power tests are really quick. So it's no skin off of anyone's back to kind of to do it, and it's not really all that challenging. And you can use it for someone who may not have as much rowing experience just to kind of see what their physiology is doing. And
Hmm.
then from there, I did because they hadn't started the season and they had been doing a lot of like long distance rowing, like like head racing in the fall. I had them do the 1,000 meters at a 24, which is a 2K predictor.
Hmm.
So we use that, and that will give you like what you get on that over the 1,000 meters at a 24 rate, as long as you don't overstroke it. It'll give you it'll give you what your predicted 2K pace could be. Um,
Okay.
and then using that, we kind of decided on a number for the first test, and I was like, okay, this should be a pretty easy number. Go ahead and get at it and just and do what you can do. But yeah, having those couple different like benchmarks are really helpful
Hmm.
because it just kind of gives them a better idea rather than kind of guessing at it,
Yeah.
which is kind of a lot of times what we do is we kind of go,
Hmm.
oh, well, we think we should be doing this, so let's try this. So,
Hmm.
um, but yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun helping them through that, and then after like the holidays, they'll go back into like a regular like training schedule with their teams. So I don't know how often I'll see them. This was kind of set up for like 6 weeks. Because of all the family stuff going on, we missed a couple weeks in there. So I think I have maybe one or two more sessions with the kids, and then I'll kind of decide from there whether I'll kind of meet with them just monthly as they kind of work through winter training. But everybody wants to go faster, and
Hmm.
sometimes it's not necessarily lifting weights. Sometimes it's like really having a solid understanding of what you're
Hmm.
supposed to do. And I think a lot
Yeah.
of times, as coaches, we'll be like, oh, just sit down and do the test.
Hmm.
And like there's not a lot of time. I mean, because I work with, either one-on-one or like the small group I have is just two girls, so I can really kind of hone in on what they're doing.
Hmm.
Like the other thing we've been working on is like because Row Hero will give like your force curve. And
Hmm.
so we've been working on that, trying to get them to be a little bit more front loaded. We were noticing that not only was like their split times drifting, but because we had the data from Row Hero, we could see that the peak force drifted. So they would start off the test where like so imagine like the graph of the peak force kind of looking like that, like a cartoon whale. And
Hmm.
your peak power is supposed to be somewhere in, the 30 to 50% of that range. But
Hmm.
we noticed that like they were starting with at like 35, 30% getting their peak power on. And then as they went into 1,000 meters, that peak power just drifted further back. So they were actually not getting on their full power as early as they were in the beginning of the test.
Oh. Hmm.
Yeah, it was really interesting. It was something that like I really, because Row Hero just added that information. So it really wasn't something that I could quantify before. You
Hmm.
can look at it live, but it's just not the same as like seeing it on an Excel sheet and watching the number like it'd be like 35, 35, 30, 37, 39, 40, 42, 45. Like you could see it drifting further and further back. Like so them getting more and more tired. So as now we've worked on consistency as far as keeping that split, we'll work on consistency of keeping our peak power, more front end loaded because these girls aren't that they're not super tall. girls. So
Hmm.
like you want them to be generating as their peak power earlier so there's more time and room underneath the graph to go faster.
Hmm.
So yeah, just really, yeah, fun and interesting stuff to kind of look at.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
would love to see my like what I would look like on there, but definitely with Hannah, 'cause she's been talking lately about how she feels like she's not able to use her legs as well as she feels like she
Uh,
needs to. She
yeah.
definitely knows she's using her arms, and she's had other people point that out, and she just can't figure out how
Mhm.
to, change her stroke. So yeah, it's something she'll
Yeah,
have to work on.
download Row Heroes. The app is free for
Hmm.
individuals, so go ahead and
Okay.
download it. And what it does is it'll I can't load it up like right now, but when you go in there, you'll connect it to the C2 machine. Once
Hmm.
it's connected, it'll give you a live drawing of the force curve for every single stroke.
Hmm.
And as it's showing you this curve, there's like a dotted orange line, and that's the predicted curve based off of the power that you started at the beginning of the stroke. So you can imagine like the curve's supposed to be smooth and come back down. If there's different pieces of the stroke that are missing, there'll be like these little lumps and bumps in the
Hmm.
curve. And
Okay.
then yeah, then that tells you about the actual stroke smoothness.
Hmm.
So sometimes if you're not locking in on the front end, you'll be a little bit like you'll start your drive and it'll fall off of like the predicted line just a little bit. So that's
Okay.
like a signal that like the connection between like the legs. There might be like a misstep in the connection between the legs and how the arms and body are holding like the handle. So I always say like a
Hmm.
lot of times if you have that front end dip, it's the fact that the seat and the handle are not moving together. You can imagine if the seat starts to
Hmm.
go and leads the stroke just a touch, the handle's not
Hmm.
moving. So like the
Yeah.
stroke starts with this predicted power, it backs off just a touch because the seat leads the stroke and then you kind of catch it and bring it with you. And so
Hmm.
then it gives like this feeling of like slight disconnection on the front end, like where you really
Hmm.
feel like you can't use your legs because you're not dead hanging. It's almost like
Hmm.
dead hanging a bar but not moving the bar at all, and then like
Hmm.
keeping your legs and then moving the bar but not like staying connected through the trunk. So that
Hmm.
might be something for her to think about, is like trying to move the seat and the handle at the same time.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people search for the tension in the hands, and that's
Hmm.
kind of it's hard because we want to, because our hands are so tactile, we want to use them. And so sometimes
Hmm.
it's like a slight break in the arms, like just a little bit of like biceps at the beginning of the catch. I have to be careful of that sometimes. Like I sometimes I'm just not really as connected as I'd like to be.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe she should practice on it. Do you have a dynamic? Like, did you have access to a dynamic erg anywhere?
I don't think we have any at the boathouse. We certainly don't. We just have a regular concept, an older concept too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or even like the sliders, if you get
Yep.
a set of sliders to just kind of like do like legs only, front end, like
Hmm.
kind of really thinking about like seat handle, seat handle, seat handle. Because I know a lot of times
Yeah.
when we practice legs only, we're thinking like legs, 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 but we're not paying attention to the other part, is that the seat
Right.
and the handle have to go together
Hmm.
in order for there to be like that connection. And she probably gets that on the water.
Hmm.
You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like she probably, because she's been in the single a lot, she probably
Hmm.
understands that connection where like when the blade's in the water, you push the foot plate away and there's
Hmm.
like this stimulus that kind of happens between your feet and your hand, which is slightly different than what happens on the erg. You
Hmm.
know, like I think like transitioning from like the water to the rowing machine, there's this space in between because like
Hmm.
the machine really benefits the person who has more arm strength, like because
Hmm.
and that's why like guys who are super strong can kind of muscle it because they can really use that, but that's not
Hmm.
something you want to practice like to
Yeah.
be a winner. So sometimes it's hard to feel that connection, but like my
Yeah.
suggestion would be the dynamic. Try a little
Okay.
bit more on like a dynamic erg.
Hmm.
um, and then video always
Yeah.
works really well because I mean, even when I watch myself on video, I'm like, oh, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm like, it doesn't feel like that. And like, so like, I always try
Yeah.
to like video, watch it,
Hmm.
and then like try to do the correction. But then like, I always try to think like, how does this feel different? like
Hmm.
that because you it has to feel different in order to make the correction. So like I always when I
Yeah.
talk to my athletes, I'm like, this is gonna feel different. It's not gonna feel right because you already have a muscle pattern in here for rowing. You're gonna have to kind of change the pattern. It's gonna have to feel a little bit different.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, she should definitely try out Row Hero, and if she has
Hmm.
any questions or anything, just let me know, and
Okay.
you can record workouts and then you can export all the data.
Hmm.
And Row Hero does connect to Logbook, so you don't have to lose any of that data. So just
Oh,
if
good.
you're keeping track
Yeah.
in Logbook, or if her team's keeping track in Crew Lab, what I do is I use Row Hero, which pushes to Logbook, which then Logbook pushes to Crew Lab. So I have like this three layers of information. But
Wow.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's really great. I mean
Hmm.
having like I just think about like how much faster I could have been because I
Oh
like the
gosh.
numbers, you know what I mean? I
Hmm.
like looking at the numbers. Like if I,
Hmm.
even on my best test, I never got below 742. Like, but I'm like, but if I had like more data, like would
Hmm.
I have been able to kind of figure out where was I losing those 2 seconds? Like I could have gotten under 740. Like, like where
Hmm.
were those 2 seconds not happening? So
Hmm.
um I've been tempted. I don't know, like this spring, because I did all the half marathons this year. I've
Yeah.
been tempted to be like, should I try to like, I don't know, like
Aim for
go
a
go
2K again?
aim for a 2K because you did a 2K, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, but it wasn't, I mean, yeah, nothing to talk about. It was
Oh my
just an
gosh, but that's
experience
my
after
college
many
number.
years.
I mean, like, I haven't done, I did a 2K when we did level 3 because I didn't have any athletes and you were supposed to
Hmm.
do the Jensen test, which is the peak power, the one,
Okay.
the 2K, the 6K, and the hour
Hmm.
long test. And I think they told us we could drop off the hour long. So I think I did a 6K, a
Hmm.
2K, and yeah, so yeah,
Hmm.
I have numbers from that, but they're, yeah.
Hmm.
But I mean, I've been doing the 1K consistently and I keep getting the same number, but I really haven't
Hmm.
changed up my training or anything like that. Like I love steady state. Like I'm not a big
Hmm.
speed work girl when it comes like even just to like running. Like I don't do speed work as much as I should. Like so I was like maybe I should stop doing all this long running and long rowing and only do speed work for for this
Hmm.
year and see what happens. You know.
Well, there you got New Year's. I was thinking we could do a podcast on our goals.
Yeah,
That
New
that
Year's.
could be our next one.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Yeah. And
Um,
I know we jumped right into it, but I did want to kind of chat favorites with you a little bit just
mhm.
because end of the year, right? It's a
Yeah,
nice way to kind of reflect. It doesn't have to be your favorites for the year, but
yeah.
I thought maybe we could take some turns talking about some favorites that we have with rowing. Um, so do you want to start with I guess it's kind of a big one, but like your favorite rowing memory that you
Favorite
have?
rowing memory from this year? Oh, definitely. Well, I got two. One
Okay.
was, of course, the Charles. That was amazing. Like, so
Yeah.
like everything about Charles weekend from when I arrived to when I left was absolutely perfect. So I think about that. I think about the ladies that I rode with and just how wonderful that was. My other favorite was when I put the boat that I had put back together in the water and took it out for a row, and then
Aw.
ceremoniously dumped myself in the water because I got stuck in the weeds. So that's my other favorite rowing memory from this year.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Yeah.
What are yours?
So I would say, oh boy, I should have thought of this more. Um, Probably just the race that where I rode and then Keegan rode. It was our home race
Yeah,
and Hannah rode and Chris was there cheering us on. So that was kind of a really special race for all of us to participate in. So that was over this year. That was my favorite. Yeah.
very
Yep.
cool.
So do you have a favorite boathouse or river that you enjoy
Ooh.
rowing on? Or like maybe you talk about what you like in a boathouse or what you want in
Um,
a
what
venue
I
river?
like, well, we're pampered around here in Rochester. We have the
Hmm.
Genesee and the Erie Canal, and they're both both very flat, especially
Hmm.
summertime. Not in spring and fall. The conditions can kind of kick up a little bit spring and fall, but
Hmm.
summertime rowing on the Genesee or on the Erie Canal, yeah, like that's my favorite. I'm a flat water gal. Like I love
Hmm.
a glassy looking body of water to row on. So as long as it's nice and glassy and as long as the dock isn't too precarious, I like a non-precarious dock situation.
Like no bubble docs.
No, yeah, but I'll do a bubble dock, but
Okay.
like just a nice stable bubble dock.
Okay. I feel like the ones we had in college were not very
No,
stable.
no. Yeah, so nicely secured. Bubble dock can be
Hmm.
fine if it's nicely secured. Most of the time it's
Hmm.
very precariously secured to a tree with
Hmm.
a piece of rebarb someone picked up at Home Depot. Yeah, like
Hmm.
yeah. None of that. Nice secure dock. A nice wooden dock. I mean, like nice
Hmm.
beautiful wooden dock to nice low profile, no bird
Yep.
poop, but not
Yeah.
slippery too. Like yeah, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Hmm
Cool. Yeah. Do you feel like you've seen a lot of boathouses over the years?
Um, I would say. I would say I've seen a decent amount, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? As far
Hmm.
as like locally, like
Yeah.
I've pretty much have like, all the local colleges I've been to now.
Hmm.
But it was last year was the first time I went to RIT's boathouse, which is gorgeous.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
Rochester Institute of Technology has a very, very nice boathouse, very gorgeous. First time I'd been there, and it's just like down the road from the boathouse I usually row out of. Beautiful spot that they have. Went out to Hobart William Smith. They have a beautiful spot.
Oh, we
Oh
saw
my
that
God.
one. That was really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I remember riding in the launch and just like not even watching the rowers because the water was so clear. Like
Hmm.
even when we were out on the lake, like I was like, oh my gosh, you can see the bottom. Like this is just wild because we row a little bit in the Willy Wonka style water, so you can't really see anything
Okay.
more than just the top of the water. So
Yep.
that's really beautiful. Syracuse, like the
Oh
Charger
yeah.
spot that they have up there, that's really nice when it's not windy.
Hmm.
Um, where else? I mean, of course, like Fish, is it Fish Lake or Fish Creek?
Fish Creek. Yep. And so
Creek.
that's Saratoga Lake. Yep.
So Saratoga. So
Yep.
like, where of course CRI in
Oh
Boston.
yeah, CRI. Well, that's where we got
Um,
your double.
yeah,
You rescued your
yeah.
double.
Yep, the dumpster double. Had to pull it right
Hmm.
out of the right out of the ditch, right?
Yep.
So
That's a beautiful
oh
boathouse
my
though.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the funny thing was is like to kind of I had done, like vision board kind of
Yeah.
idea. So
Hmm.
I'd done vision boards with some friends and somebody had brought in like some like we were all rowing friends. So somebody brought in a stack of rowing magazines. So on my vision board I like cut out like some boat houses and that kind and boats and that kind of thing and put them on my vision board and then I remember because when I would, that was the second time or second or third time I'd been to CRIs when we went up there. But the
Hmm.
first time I went to CRI, I remember pulling in and being like, oh my gosh, the glass boathouse that they
The
have.
glass one. Yeah.
It was on my vision board. I was like, this is the
No.
wildest thing. So like
Wow.
if I had my own boathouse, like I
Hmm.
would definitely go for that type of like setup. I think that boathouse is just so gorgeous and
Hmm.
beautiful, like with a bunch of like lovely colored boats inside and like
Hmm.
yeah. I love that boathouse setup. So
Have you been to the Frank Lloyd Wright Boathouse at Westside?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting boathouse
Yeah.
too, because
Yeah.
like they have to like cant the boats to get them in and
Yeah.
out and but I mean, but it's has like kind of like a cozy kind of like
Hmm.
old school rowing feel to it. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like you feel like you're gonna see some kids with the really tall socks and like the Henley style like cotton workout and like the little shorts on like walking out of there. Like you feel like you're gonna see that out of that boathouse.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
it looks like very historical, even though it's not that old. But it's beautiful. But yeah, I think smaller than I thought, and I think that's probably why they have
You
to
know
kind of
what? We should do
tip
because
the
they
boat.
do tours of the
Hmm.
boathouse. So
Yep.
at one point or another, we should do a podcast
Hmm.
from the tour or something like that. That would be wild. That would be super fun.
Yeah, definitely. That would be fun. Definitely.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite race
Ooh,
that
favorite race.
you've done as a coach you've been to or? I mean,
Favorite race
obviously
as a
there's the head of
coach.
the Charles,
There's
right?
a Heather
But
Charles. Heather Charles, fantastic. Favorite race that I coached, and I think I mentioned it on here before, was the one where everybody else from the team left. We were at West Side, and like, and the way that the lanes are, you know how they're like,
oh
oh,
yeah.
they have so
Yep.
many lanes, but they really don't have that many lanes. But
Yes.
they kind of squeeze everybody in on the end, and that
Hmm.
was one of my favorite races to coach.
Okay.
And then those girls went on to win states, and watching
Hmm.
them like, because it's not the same thing as like standing on the shore at West Side and being so close to seeing what
Yeah.
they're doing. Like literally you're like in the binoculars, you're like, is that them? Is that them
Yeah.
winning? So that was really cool.
Hmm.
I like the races where you can where you can see what's going on a little
Yeah.
bit more. That's always so nice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other favorite races. I haven't raced Head of the Ohio in a long time, but I remember that being
Hmm.
fun. I just remember that being a
Hmm.
really fun race. There's lots of bridges. I feel like the race
Hmm.
went by quickly.
Yep.
And like the setup was neat. Pittsburgh was neat. Like I
Hmm.
think that's also a good one. What's one of yours? Oh, we're down to like a minute here.
Oh my God. All right. Well, I would say Canadian Henley is definitely
Oh,
one of my
yeah.
favorites. Yeah.
Hmm.
So it also has a huge grandstand. Very
Yeah.
good viewing as a spectator. You just have to get down there, so it's
Yeah.
not really connected to where the athletes are.
Hmm.
But where the athletes are, they can still go and watch their teammates race because it's all very close. And it's a really nice course. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we should do Henley. Want to do a double next year?
Maybe that would be
That
fun.
would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta go
This is
straight, right?
1,000, right?
It's 1,000 for masters. That'd be amazing.
That sounds good. I like that.
So
All right.
we'll connect again, and we're going to talk about
Yeah,
New Year's goals, right? So
definitely.
we'll put out a bunch of different things that people could think about
I
if you
love
happen
it.
to be out in this area too. So
All right. Well, Merry Christmas, Adrian.
Merry Christmas, Kate, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And we'll talk soon. We'll get more of
Yes.
these podcasts out. So
Sounds good.
all
All
right, you
right.
take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.